So, basically, we decided to watch Tommy Wiseau's The Neighbors on Hulu, and that's episodes 1 through 4 as of the 18th of March.
We know that 12 exist, but he decided to only release the 4 to Hulu. Now, a little background on The Neighbors. It was actually scheduled in 2007. He started writing it, and he just kept looking for TV networks over and over again. He never found anybody. Finally, he decided to put it on Hulu.
There was at one point where it was going to be picked up by like Adult Swim, and Tim and Eric were going to produce it, but that didn't really work out. So eventually, it finally got to Hulu, and this is where we are. Overall impressions of the show.
It's not The Room.
It's not The Room, but it has potential in my opinion.
I'm going to be completely honest. It's not The Room. And when I say that, I mean The Room had this enjoyability to it of being so bad it was good. This doesn't really... It's got a little so bad it's good charm, but very incompetent.
I think the main problem with the show is it's supposed to be a comedy sitcom, and what made The Room so great was the fact that it was a drama that you could totally watch as a comedy sitcom type of show. And, I mean...
He tried to write this as funny, and it's not funny. It's just bad. I will say there was one part where I laughed at something because it was genuinely funny. But that's it. It was once. And there's nothing worse than bad comedy. I mean, at least there's Tommy Wiseau. You get to listen to him talk every once in a while. And that's good. That's what rescued The Room in some respects. But so I guess about The Neighbors. The story is about an apartment complex and all the people who live in it.
And then everything after that is just a white noise.
It's just what happens in the apartment. Characters have problems with other characters, and that's it. Characters show up who are mentioned, and then 3 episodes later they just show up and you're like, oh, that's who that is. Because one of the 2 Tommy Wiseau characters said, says her name. And you're like, oh yeah, they talked about her earlier and we didn't know. It kind of assumes that you know what's going on. And because this is produced by Tommy Wiseau, you don't know what's going on.
It's the last episode, which is episode 4. I tried so hard to pay attention, and I just didn't know what was going on. I had to look at the synopsis for the episode to understand what the actual plot of the episode was. Everything after that was, you can loosely understand what's going on, and then just batshit random things happen. But episode 4, you just didn't know what was going on.
I can easily say that episode 4 was the worst episode of all the episodes. Nothing, at least I think in the other episodes, things that were happening, they kind of made sense. I mean, except for a few big things, like there's a British Duchess who shows up, and then all of a sudden...
She just looks like she hates her fucking life.
She hates her life, first of all, and second of all, she's then part of the cast, and it's like, what? Why? Characters can be based around like,
general stereotypes.
General stereotypes. So, Tommy Wiseau plays 2 characters. He plays Charlie and Ricky Rick. We determined that these 2 characters were 2 sides of Tommy Wiseau. Charlie was, if everyone loved each other, the world would be a better place to live. And Ricky Rick was, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. Like, they're just 2 different people. One is...
If you mashed them together, they would create Johnny from The Room.
One is a rich kid. They say he's the son of a billionaire. That's it. That's his story arc. He's the son of a billionaire. That's, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. The other one is the manager of
the apartment
building. And he just kind of says mild-mannered things. Ugh. And half the time, I don't think Tommy Wiseau knows the word cut. when it comes to directing, because you can't mess up a line if you're in a Tommy Wiseau thing. You know what? I think that might be the biggest difference. Like, The Room, I feel like
worked well because it was a movie, so they could stop at any point and re-edit things. And with it being a sitcom and being a TV show, a lot of it has to be in one take.
I feel like he decided, like, he would actually say, stop, let's do that again. In this, it doesn't feel like he ever stopped and did anything again. Everything looks like first take.
That's about accurate.
So for more characters, there's his assistant love interest, whose name is...
Bebe.
Is Bebe. Her name's BB, but it'd be easier to call her Bebe since there's two other characters who have names that rhyme with that name.
Her and her kids.
BB evidently is Charlie's love interest, and then all of a sudden their handyman, Ed, who is a handyman and always wears tank tops and is the attractive male stereotype, she, like, has this interest for him all of a sudden, and she doesn't seem like this person. Just all of a sudden she starts flirting with the guy in front of Charlie, and you're like, what am I supposed to take from this? Is she terrible? I thought she was supposed to be the most sane person here. Ugh. Take another character.
I'm going to talk about my personal favorite, which was stereotypical aggressive stoner dude.
I don't remember stereotypical aggressive stoner dude's name.
I don't remember his name, but he was probably the best part of that show, easy.
He was the best part. He was the one time I laughed.
There was something that happened, and basically he was going to sell this person a gun, and then she used her women charms to, like, hypnotize him so she can get the gun for free, and then after she left, he realized what was going on, and then it's just random cuts of him yelling, and then at the very end of the random cuts, he goes, "No, I'm okay." And then the scene just ends.
By the way, her name is Lola. She is the love interest of Ricky. And to be honest, she has no character traits besides being attractive. But the thing is, every female character in this show is supposed to be extremely attractive. And it's like, except for one. And that one person's name, what was her name? It wasn't Dee Dee.
Describe things about her and I'll probably remember her
The
name.
old person.
Oh, I thought it was like Cece.
Cece, that was her name. Her name was Cece, and she was old and crazy
And religious.
and religious.
But not like blatantly religious. She just said some things that were religious.
She would say, "Oh my lordy," every once in a while. And she had a chicken whose name was Fifi.
She was slightly offensive.
She was very offensive. If you don't say that a lot of this wasn't offensive, then you're lying. This was offensive to everybody's intelligence. But anyway, what were we talking about?
Characters.
There was Lola.
We're doing Cece and her chicken Fifi, and the first, like, for some reason the show fixated on that stupid chicken way too long. The first episode alone was about Cece's, like, pet chicken that she lost, and she was trying to find it, and she would go into people's houses or apartments and, like, yell at them for no reason.
I don't even think the script was fully laid out, because sometimes it would almost sound like she still didn't. Sometimes she wouldn't have her chicken. They'd be like, "Did you find your chicken?" She'd be like, "Yeah." And then I'd think, "Where's her chicken?" She seems to just always have the chicken with her, but then they just kind of drop the chicken. I think the last
They could only rent the chicken for so long, and then they're like, "This is getting too expensive. We'll just say we have the chicken."
Yeah, I think the last 2 episodes didn't have the chicken in it at all. So the chicken, which has more character than anybody, because the chicken had a personality and wasn't a stereotype. There was Philadelphia. There was a girl whose name was Philadelphia, and the plot was she just wore bikinis all the time.
And was ditzy, but not really.
Yeah, she wasn't really ditzy. She just wore bikinis all the time.
She was just bikini person, and that's it. Like, I can't really describe her personality other than she comes off as the cliche ditzy personality type, but if that person had a lobotomy and just had no personality. I mean, that's basically all you're getting with that character.
That describes her. Kind of reminded me of Marie from Breaking Bad because she only wore pink bikinis. And Marie from Breaking Bad only wears purple.
Boom.
There was the lesbian. I can't remember her name right now.
I don't know. The problem with the show is you're trying to remember all the characters, but they literally just cram, like, characters for no reason.
There's so many characters, and these characters do so little. There are characters who aren't in episodes. Don't even get me started. If I could just start mentioning characters that literally have one thing and then never show up again. There is this guy who gets an apartment the first episode, and we haven't seen him again.
Oh, Joe...
Yeah, he had some stereotypical
Joe
name.
Spielberg, and I laughed at that.
That's it. His name was Joe Spielberg.
Yeah, he was like 20 and just got an apartment, but then you never saw him again. And they made it seem like he was going to be a main focus of the show as well, but then he just never showed up.
We haven't seen him again.
Which reminds me of their method of eviction and approval, where they just get a marker and just scribble it on a piece of paper. And
when he gets approved, which he doesn't check his credit because the phone lines were down, Ed had to cut the phone lines for a day. We don't know why. He just did.
I don't think he has the power to do that.
He did for a day, I guess, because he was the handyman, because he always wears a belt that's got handyman stuff on it. And that's it. But anyway...
Pretty sure you get in trouble for cutting the power line like that without their permission.
Not in this world, evidently. But she goes to check his credit, and she can't because she can't call the credit people, as she has a computer sitting right in front of her. Anyway, she can't call the credit people, so she just goes, and then takes a dry erase marker and writes approved on it. And you have to watch her write the words.
And we're not talking about writing it. We're talking about, like...
big letters, like...
carving it into the piece of paper, surprised it didn't bleed through, and just rip the paper
It
in half.
implies the stamp, but with writing. And she made it huge. It was like a third of the paper.
And then their eviction notice was literally like a white piece of paper with large text that says, you owe $850 or you will be evicted.
They use the same piece of paper that once Stoner Guy gets it in the first episode, he's like, what the heck? And then he walks away and he doesn't get evicted. And then, like 2 episodes later...
Stoner Guy was counting the hundreds in his wallet.
That's right. He had $850 in cash.
Exactly.
In his pocket, he had exactly $850 in cash, but he couldn't, like, pay them before that. Just all of a sudden he had all this cash, because he's a drug dealer, I guess. That's why he just suddenly has all this cash on him.
Yes.
The second eviction notice goes... Was his name... His name was Richard. The second eviction notice comes to Richard. Richard's story arc is he wants to kill himself.
Yeah.
That's how he's introduced in the first episode. And then, like, it disappears. And then it comes back up as something that happened in the past. Like, Charlie knew about it, but it was a different occasion. But they showed the first occasion.
But with red, like, tint and... It was really unsettling, I'm not gonna lie.
It was pretty gross. He becomes the butler of the Duchess, who is the Duchess, whose job is to have a British accent and say, I don't think she said more than 10 lines.
Yeah.
No, lines? 10 words. I don't think she said more than 10 words in the whole episode. Her goal was to look as uncomfortable as possible and not look like a Duchess.
I think there was a point where she realized this isn't going on to television, and I've made the biggest mistake being committed to this show.
She realized, like everybody else in her career, is probably this, and this is what she'll be known for. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Greg Sestero, but...
Greg Sestero made a bad thing into a glorious thing.
Yeah, he made the best of the room, but I don't think... I couldn't see any of these people doing anything with this. Maybe a few porn stars out of the women.
There was a point where you're like, okay, this is about to become a porno.
Yeah, because Lesbian comes up to Philadelphia and says, I love you. And they're sitting on a couch, and...
Well, that. I was talking more of when Joe delivered the pizzas. And it was like, borderline, almost like intro to a really, really corny porno.
It looked like a corny porno. Actually, I don't think we see that one girl who's in that apartment in the porno part at all.
Yeah, she was there for like that scene, for the scene's convenience, and that's it.
We don't see her again.
Which is okay to have like guest characters. Like that situation was fine, but like the majority of these characters were played to have bigger parts, and then they never show up. Like at least for the first 4 episodes that they're in. They'll probably be in like later episodes maybe, but at that point we'll forget who they are. We'll probably reintroduce them again and completely forget that this was a thing.
I'm not sure there were more characters. I'll be completely honest.
There's probably not going to be any more characters.
I'm trying to remember if there are any more characters.
There's the guy... There was Mr. Bean.
There's Mr.
The
Bean.
really racist person that like... was either racist or was hitting on all the ladies.
Which brings us to our 2 African American characters.
Yes.
So there's Mr. Bean, who I assume that his storyline is everyone hates him.
Just that annoying jack-off that lives upstairs.
Everyone hates him. That's just what happens. Nobody likes to talk to him. He talks to Ariana. Oh my goodness, I keep remembering characters. He talks to this one girl. He's like, "You're my girl. You're my girl." She's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Man, you suck. We're breaking up." And then we never see him again. That was episode 2. In the laundry room, where everyone has sex. That laundry room has not had one sexual overtone. There's not been a point where there hasn't been a sexual overtone. Somebody tries
to advance on someone else in that laundry room. I think there's even a point, like, I did check my phone during this scene, but I think there's literally a point that Ricky Rick wants to set up a payment fee where they have to pay in $5 into the laundromat, and then they could do whatever they want in the laundromat. They could either do laundry or they could pretty much just have wild, passionate sex.
Because for some reason, Ricky Rick, which I don't actually think we said who Ricky Rick is. Ricky Rick is the second Tommy Wiseau character.
Yeah, we already said that.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Ricky Rick gets hired. Like, Charlie hires him for some reason, and then all of a sudden he becomes like a manager, and he's making all these decisions, because in episode 4, Charlie is in, I think, the first scene, and then you never see him again.
He apparently went on vacation to Hawaii.
That's right! He went on vacation to Hawaii.
And he needed a replacement.
So
he hires his double persona. And then, literally, BB, or I'm going to refer to her as Bebe from now on, just has an anxiety attack the entire time.
She has an anxiety attack that she hires him because then Crazy Susie shows up. Who, this is the character I was talking about earlier, who, they mention her like, "I hate Crazy Susie," says Bebe, and then she just shows up, and then you're looking at her like, is that the same blonde woman, or is that a different blonde woman? I can't tell anymore. These characters are starting to blend together because nobody has any personality. But it's Crazy Susie, and then she walks in, and then she goes crazy, and as in, Bebe goes crazy. Crazy Susie's like, I'm an attractive lady, and I'm just gonna fix things because I work here, I guess.
So, that's pretty much it for characters. Oh, we didn't actually talk about the African American characters. I mean, one guy was...
That
I don't even
reminds me of another character. That's the problem. You keep remembering characters who are in one scene at a time. There's a black guy who's like, I don't know what character he said, because this was first episode when they're introducing character after character after character after character, and you don't remember these people. He mentions that he likes a neighbor, like in a like way, a male neighbor, but he has a pregnant wife.
Yeah, that's... I don't know his name, but he was just... I don't know how to describe that scene other than he confronts them because he has to like pay for something or something like that, and then he's like, "Okay, so I have a problem. I think I like one of the other neighbors that I don't think you see at all or hear about."
Maybe we do, maybe we don't. We don't remember names.
But he's like, "Yeah, I had sexual relations with this other man, and I
in my dreams.
Oh, in your dreams.
In my dreams, more than my wife. But I'm not gay. This is a problem. He brings this up as a problem to the super. What is the super gonna do about that? You can't do anything.
I think even Britt specifically says, I don't care.
I think he says, I'll get on that in the most, I'm not gonna get on that kind of tone.
And then his wife comes in and looks like she just crammed a bunch of pillows in her shirt. Or something. I don't even think
they looked like pillows filled with nickels. Like, it looked completely unnatural and just, like, bumpy, and it's like, oh, you should get that checked out.
And then they fought about it, and then Tommy was just like, get out of here. No, I'm too busy.
You forgot to add a bunch of, I'm too busy. Like, half the time he forgets his lines. And he has to, like, keep going. I swear, once he said what to remember his line. Somebody said something, he's like, what? And then they say it again, he's like, whoa. It was like, it didn't advance anything. Why did he say what for no reason all of a sudden? This show is a train wreck. I will give it wonderful train wreck. There are things on television that are made professionally and are not nearly this entertaining.
It's entertaining. That's the worst part about it. It's not a good show, and it's not like the room quality of good, but I could probably keep watching as long as it doesn't keep happening like episode 4.
I would keep watching. Episode 4, that was a problem. Like, episodes 1 through 3, nonsensical things happened, but you kind of got where they were coming from. Episode 4, just they're sitting around, like, smoking pot. Or crack, or meth. We didn't actually know what they were smoking.
I think that was the best part of that episode, was when they were smoking meth, crack, weed, and Fidel Castro maybe came in. This guy that came in, who vaguely resembles a, like, Cuban dictator or something, just comes in and is like, he says, what does he say?
He says, "Scoozy."
Scoozy.
He walks in and says, "Scoozy," and then like everybody's like, "What?"
I think he comes in and then opens up the door and he's like, "Hey," like that, and everyone's like everyone on the cast just looked really confused. He's like, "Scoozy, Scoozy," and he just shuts the door.
And then Ricky Rick goes, "Was that Fidel Castro?"
And no one could answer that.
No one could answer. It could have been. It might not have been. It might have been just a racist assumption that somebody was Fidel Castro because they looked like Fidel Castro. It could have been Fidel Castro. You don't know. Nobody knows anything that's going on in this show.
And then they never bring it up ever again. And that's the end of that.
That was the best part of the show, is when people wouldn't bring things back up that just kind of happened. They're like, oh, well, I never had it again. Whatever. So wonderful nuances about the show. Every transition has 2 things in it. One is a picture of the outside of this apartment building.
Just a stagnant shot of just a random apartment in probably Los Angeles or California or somewhere like that. It looks like a Western United States like apartment complex.
It is easily the most professional thing that's done in the show. It's well shot. You can see the whole apartment building. You can see that it's nice.
It was probably just Google search, and they just took a picture.
It worked effectively. You know, maybe if they didn't use the same thing. At least I like to compare this to The Room, but in The Room, there were different shots of San Francisco every time. This is the same picture.
It's like the bridge of San Francisco that they occasionally go to, except it doesn't pan as a stagnant shot. And like the same song loop that they play in The Room, this one is a lot more tedious because it's not like a full song. It's literally just like a GarageBand loop almost.
It's a GarageBand loop. And the thing is, when you start watching the show, the first 1 or 2 times you hear it,
you're like amused by it.
You're like, that's funny. That's cool. And it gets on your nerves immediately.
Because they transition a lot in this show, and this happens like 5 to 6 times per episode, and like every episode is the same exact shot and same exact like sound loop.
I remembered a character. Who's actually in every episode, and it's amazing. I forgot. There's this guy named Tim, and he has a basketball, and he likes ice cream. That's his entire character. He comes in with a basketball, says, "Hey guys, you want to play basketball?" Or he comes in without a basketball, and then Charlie asks him, "Are you playing basketball today?" And he goes, "No, but I'd like to get some ice cream."
Or he borrows money, like in the first episode, and then basically directly gives it back to the person.
He does this twice. We're going to describe what happens. He walks in, and one of the characters, Charlie or Bebe, says, "You owe me $20. So what does he do?
He asks Tommy Wiseau to borrow $20. He says, "I can't lend you $20. So Tommy Wiseau, borrows money from the person that that the original guy needs to borrow money from, okay?
Borrows needs to give money to.
Yeah, that the original guy has to give money to. He takes the $20 from the lady, gives it to the guy who needs to borrow the money, and the guy who borrowed the money gives it to the person that was originally borrowed from, twice over.
Once this entire process happened, and then he said, "Who wants ice cream?" Now, give it credit, the characters say, "You don't have any money. You keep borrowing money from us." And he's like, oh, and he like pulls out his pants drawers and he goes, "Charlie, can you give me money?" Charlie's like, "No, I'm not lending you money." And then he asks Baby, and he's like, "Can I borrow money from you?" And then she just gives him the 20 back. And she's like, "I'll give you guys ice cream on me." And then walks out.
So he's probably like $40 in debt at that point.
There's one time where he has a scheme to get ice cream by walking into the office when Bebe wasn't there and saying, "You gotta pretend I've got a cramp in my leg." And so I was like, oh, okay. And then he sits down and she walks in and he's like, oh, and she's like, "How can I help?" He's like, oh, how can I help? And then all of a sudden he's like, "I need strawberry ice cream." And she's like, "Okay." And then she walks out.
Yeah, one episode is literally just the pilot, and you just meet the characters, and nothing happens other than Cece loses her chicken, Fifi. Second episode, I said Fifi.
I thought he said Fifi.
That would probably have been a better name, but
nobody's named Dee Dee in this show. We're amazed that no one's named Dee Dee in this show.
So, second episode is when Princess Penelope arrived, who is the British Duchess or whatever, and the episode's about her coming, and it's super awkward because she looks like she regrets every life choice she made up to this point.
I'd like to remind you that everybody is so excited to meet the Duchess, and all of the following happens. Philadelphia will not wear anything but a bikini regardless. So she's wearing a bikini to meet a Duchess. 1. 2. Someone is dressed equally as scandalous as a girl in a bikini, but they make a big deal that Philadelphia is only wearing a bikini. 3. The Duchess hires Richard, the suicidal one, on the spot, and then Charlie, Tommy Wiseau, goes into this rant about America. You can hire and fire people on the spot. Like that doesn't happen anywhere else. And then 4, as he said, she just looks miserable the whole time. She looks like she's upset with the situation, but never...
She probably got kicked out of her royal family and then was exiled to America, where she has to deal with these imbeciles all the time. That's probably why she's upset. That's her story arc.
That's probably what happened. She looks inherently upset with the situations, but never does or acts like it. She just has this, like, frown on her face, realizing that her career is over, and she's going to be stuck doing a 12-episode pilot with Tommy Wiseau. That's episode 2. Besides, you know, the other things that happen. Whatever.
We've kind of vaguely talked about it here and there.
Things happen in the show.
Episode 3 was the birthday episode for Bebe. And that's basically it.
Well, they have a party The entire show, you only see their office from one perspective. It's like a sitcom perspective. Which, by the way, there's no laugh track in the show. If there was a laugh track, I could see the show, like, almost being an actual thing. But there's no laugh track or stop. They just do these jokes, and then
It's just dead silent.
They fall flat on their face. I mean, I know there are sitcoms that do that, like The Office or 30 Rock. But I mean...
This isn't like that at
They're
all.
designed to feel real. This doesn't feel real. This feels...
Make-believe.
Make-believe.
Like, completely.
Where is there a person on this earth who just walks around in a bikini all the time? Just cause. That's what she does. Anyway, finally you get to see the other side of his office, which looks like a green screen room without a green screen, and just a couch.
And everyone's hiding behind the couch because they're going to say surprise. And then they all get her things, and then for some reason, or somehow, the cake gets hit on Bebe's face.
No, it's the Duchess's face.
Oh, the Duchess's
For some reason it lands on the Duchess's face. I will remind you that she hasn't had any story besides just being a Duchess and being there.
Yeah. And then they all started to dance party.
And throwing cake at each other.
And then a direct cut where Charlie leaves, and then Rick just appears.
And they're not in the same scene. And we get all sad because we're waiting for a situation where you split it right down the middle, and there's two of a person, and it's Tommy talking to each other. We were waiting for that.
We expected that to come at the very end of the season. Like this, we pretty much were expecting, like, alright, we got to watch all the episodes. The last episode of this season will have that, and it'll be the greatest thing ever. So episode 4 comes along, and one of the very first scenes you see is not necessarily a split down the middle where they're talking to each other, but it's like one person is a fake character, like a replacement character, and the other person is played by Tommy Wiseau, and it's like a back-to-back conversation, and there's like a stunt double playing like Rick.
It's really easy to do this because Tommy Wiseau, neither of these characters, Charlie or Rick, have Tommy Wiseau's hair. They both have wigs. They have awkward wigs.
Obviously awkward wigs.
Like, Charlie has this awful mullet-looking thing, and then Rick has... The Rick wig looks a little bit better than the Charlie wig.
But it still is, like, bad.
There was this one point where it was all, like, coming forward, and you could almost see Tommy Wiseau's real hair. As far as we know, Tommy Wiseau has never cut his hair. So
it's just long. Like,
the long stuff is under there, which is why you have to put this gaudy, awful thing on there, and you can't have like a, I don't know, bald. I'd love to see Tommy Wiseau with a bald cap. That would be hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But like, they'd switch perspectives where there'd be a stunt double in the back. You could see their face, and it was not even close. It was a white person. And that was the closest thing they could get to Tommy Wiseau. That's the other part of Tommy Wiseau in the show. It looks like in the first episode that somebody beat the crap out of his face.
He had total, like, drug face.
He looks like he has double black eyes and just, like...
been beaten.
I think it got better as the episodes went on.
Either that... Well, to be fair, he's been off for a while, and it's been a while since we've seen The Room or anything. So maybe just seeing his face again made us forget how horrible he usually looks.
I think his face was better in 03. Or he got punched in the face before he shot the pilot and said, I got all these actors, let's do this. So, general impressions, recommendations, words to live by.
I would say if you're a fan of ridiculous stuff like The Room or like Troll 2 or any like really bad but hilarious movies, I think this could be good as long... Like, I don't know 100% because we have to see how it works out and the longevity of a show. It's not going to be as good as like a 2-hour... where they put everything into it. Like, a TV show is made for longevity, so jokes have to be, like, really good jokes have to be stretched out over a season, which some shows can do that wonderfully, but this doesn't really, like, work off, at first at least, very well as a longevity show. So I'm saying yes. I would say the first 3 episodes you should at least watch for the sake of watching if you're a big fan of like The Room or anything ridiculous like that. But episode 4 wasn't that good. There was like a funny thing or two that might have happened in it, but episode 4 was just awful. And I think as long as it just gets better than episode 4 in the rest of the season and does it on par, if not better, than episode 1, 2, and 3, then I think I would recommend it as a season. First 3 episodes are pretty decent, but I think it could possibly get better. I see potential in the show as a whole. What about you?
I forgot that Tommy Wiseau actually has a catchphrase. The character Charlie has a catchphrase, and it's, "Oh, what a day." That's your catchphrase, people. That's what you're working with. That's the comedy genius you got here. But no, I would say I'd definitely recommend this mess. The episodes are about 25 minutes long. I mean, episode 4, we were struggling. I'm amazed we even made this because we were struggling with consciousness at that point. Well, it got hard to watch.
We were struggling with consciousness and my internet went out, so it was like hard to actually watch after the first 15 minutes of episode 1, and we're like, we can't make an episode on a 15-minute point. Because I think at that point you just didn't like the show, and you're like, there's no way that I'm going to recommend this or anything like that. You're like, this is nothing.
I was pretty mad. I hold high standards because The Room about changed my life when we got it. When I got it, sophomore year of high school?
We went halvesies and we're like, we're going to watch this movie.
We're going to watch this. We watched the movie about 7 times, that initial. I think in total I've seen the movie, like 11 times.
I think I've seen it like anywhere between 10 to 15.
We just kept showing other people the movie.
That was a good go to a party. Oh, we have nothing to do. I got The Room.
Yeah, we just pull it out because we're like, this is awesome. Everybody in their right mind has to see this movie because it's a mess, but it's wonderful. This is a mess and is good.
It's not as good as The Room mess, but an admirable try. I think it would be better if he made like a soap opera. If the show was a soap opera that was trying to be completely serious, I think this show would be amazing.
It's true. Tommy Wiseau is at best when he doesn't admit that something is a comedy.
Yeah.
And then after the fact calls it a comedy because he realizes that people are laughing at it. The Room is a black comedy. Nobody's going to believe that. That was not the initial intention of that movie. I think when he made The Room, I mean, not to go into The Room, but he understood how to make a big, overreaching script where, it's a drama, but it's got funny moments in it. I mean, the funny moments weren't funny in The Room either, but at least he would write something in there that changed the mood or changed the tone for a little bit. You can't have constant drama, or you're just gonna be like, oh, what's this about? But yes, I would greatly recommend Neighbors to anybody who can get on Hulu Plus. Evidently, you can get a free trial. You do have to be careful. I'm going to warn you, because Hulu makes you put in a credit card number, and they say, after 2 months, we're going to make you pay for it. Which is funny, because Tyler already pays for Hulu Plus, and there's still ads in it. Why are there still ads?
We'll leave Hulu and other subscription reviews in like other videos. And basically if they upload more to Hulu, we'll definitely do more videos on The Neighbors. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I would say get free Hulu, watch them, they're fun, you'll have a laugh. It's about the length of watching a movie.
Yeah,
watching 4 episodes.
All 4 episodes together basically summed up like one movie.
Without an ending that needs 8 more episodes to end, I don't know where this show's going. I don't know where it's going to go or where it's going to take us.
I have high hopes that it will get more and more ridiculous. Because I remember, I remember reading the original plot synopsis of what he wanted to do, back in like high school, and it was just like Bebe, and there's like two different personality. Like it was basically like Tommy or Charlie and Ricky Rick, and they were both the same character, like played by the same actor. And then like there was this like subplot that they were gonna put in of like a ghost or something like ridiculous. Like I had high expectations for this show, and I'm hoping the first season just introduces more ridiculous.
The closest thing to a
nonsensical
ghost
things.
we got was a girl who has charm powers.
That, or maybe that was ridiculous, or maybe Fidel Castro. Maybe Fidel Castro is a ghost. Maybe this is an alternate timeline where Fidel Castro just dies and haunts a California apartment complex run by a very, very weird, foreign but yet very American man.
I'd watch it.
I'd watch it. And with that said, I think we're done. So,
Well, we made it. We watched all these episodes.
yeah.
It was rough but fun.
Alright, so stay tuned to our channel, and we'll probably have more in the upcoming weeks or months or whenever they decide to upload this.
Backdoor Mayor, go!
Bust it.